Now, Republicans in the United States are holding their convention ahead of November's presidential election. Just like the Democrats' event last week, it will be a mostly virtual affair, but the Republicans are still conducting some in-person business. This is the physical convention hall in Charlotte, North Carolina. 336 delegates are meeting there. That is a fraction of the 2,500 who would have been in there in person were it not for COVID. And they've renominated Donald Trump and Mike Pence for president and vice president. Have a listen.
Michigan, the Great Lakes state, is going to cast all 73 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
All of Idaho's votes, 32 votes to Donald John Trump.
The great state of Iowa fully sends, full send, unanimously, all of our votes to renominate you to lead our country, America, under God for 4 more years. Mr. President and Vice President, you're rehired.
Well, most of the speeches will be delivered remotely. For example, President Trump will be delivering his acceptance speech on Thursday from the White House, but he is also spending some time in Charlotte. Here's how his speech started in the last hour or so.
4 more years! 4 more years! 4 more years!
Now, if you want to really drive him crazy, you say 12 more years.
So that was President Trump trying to stir up Democrats. Constitutionally, he would only be able to serve for 4 more years, not 12. He went on to talk up his chances in November. Here's some more.
We have tremendous enthusiasm. I think we have record enthusiasm. We have a base. We have a base the likes of which nobody's seen, including these people. Wall Street Journal did a fantastic story this weekend, a fantastic cover story this weekend on this base. Is an incredible base. Everybody here is going to vote. Everybody in our base. I mean, we have a tremendous base. They don't. They have no enthusiasm for their candidate.
Well, despite that claim, Donald Trump is trailing Joe Biden in the polls, and that's been the case for a while now. This graph shows the trend based on the average taken from different polling companies, and the president has been trailing his opponent since March and is currently 8 points behind. Now, this week's convention gives him a prime-time opportunity to turn that around. Here's more from our North America correspondent, Neda Tawfiq.
The Democrats had their turn breaking with convention to put on a virtual show whose format was an unexpected hit. It's raised the stakes as Republicans begin their convention. President Trump will have 4 nights to counter Joe Biden's message and convince undecided voters. His most loyal supporters aren't worried. Across the country, they've organized their own events, such as this boat parade in Lake Hopatcong, New Jersey.
I think he's going to win overwhelmingly.
Sylvia Patilla believes President Trump will sail to victory, despite the dark cloud of the coronavirus, the economy, and race relations. She doesn't believe the polls that show him behind Joe Biden nationally.
There's a line in the sand that's been drawn, and you have to be really careful who you vote for, because the results of that election can change everything that we're familiar with.
If President Trump loses, what is it that you fear?
I fear socialism. I fear the destruction of small business. I fear that there will be more destruction of the family structure.
But President Trump may have a mountain to climb with swing voters.
President Trump only narrowly won Michigan, Wisconsin, and this state, Pennsylvania, in 2016, securing him the Electoral College even though he lost the popular vote. So he can't afford to lose support in key battleground states. Pennsylvania plays to his strengths with older, whiter, more working-class voters. But even here, polls show he's behind Joe Biden.
Neda Tawfiq reporting there. Well, normally the convention is where the party hammers out its electoral platform, but Republicans have decided against drafting a new platform at all this year. They say they don't want a small contingent of delegates deciding on policy for the whole party. Instead, the Republican National Committee has issued a resolution stating that it continues to reject the policy positions of the Obama-Biden administration. It goes on to say the party will continue to enthusiastically support the president's America First agenda. So the Republicans are running on the president's record. And here are some of the delegates on that.
There's lots of things we can point to, foreign affairs, the economy going better despite the COVID, etc. Lots of problems, sure, but lots of solutions.
Well, I think the American public is going to be wowed by a very different vision of America that Donald J. Trump has versus the Democrats. One of positivity, one of greatness, and one of excitement for our country.
So this week is all set to be the Trump show. A member of the president's family is due to speak each night at the convention, starting with his son, Donald Trump Jr. Let's bring in our senior North America reporter, Anthony Zerka. Anthony, the polls looking very challenging for Donald Trump at the moment. How important is this convention for him?
Well, this is the start of essentially the home stretch on the presidential campaign. We just have a few more months after this. And as you mentioned, the polls that show him trailing Joe Biden have been remarkably stable over the past 7 or 8 months. So it's important to try to change that dynamic. And the best way to do that, the chance you have the biggest audience, is in this convention. Debates in a month and a half or so, those are also going to be important. But to make an unfiltered, message to the people, where you have these blocks of time, an hour a night, Monday through Thursday, Republicans aren't going to get a chance better than that.
Yeah, and I mean, we know how much Donald Trump loves the big rallies. He's not really going to get that this time around. How much is that a setback or a disadvantage for him?
Well, he tried to have that rally in Tulsa. It ended up being a disaster with lower turnout and many people getting the coronavirus and leading to an outbreak, it seems, in that city. So, yeah, he uses these rallies as a kind of a sounding board to figure out what his base wants, what of his lines and strategies work. I think the campaigns are going to try to do some modified rallies. Just last week, they went around to some cities in the U.S. where Donald Trump came in on his plane and spoke to a smaller crowd in an airport hangar and then left. I was actually in the pool following Donald Trump when he went to Minnesota and Wisconsin, and you could tell Donald Trump got energy from that. He was beaming when he got on board Air Force One. So I think you're going to see the campaign try to do more and more of those types of smaller rallies to replicate the feeling that he had at the big ones.
Now, his senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway, has just departed. What's been going on?
Well, Kellyanne Conway was Donald Trump's campaign manager during the home stretch in 2016, the first woman to successfully lead a presidential campaign. She's been in the White House ever since, and she'd been clashing publicly with her husband, who is a conservative, but it does not like Donald Trump at all on social media. Just recently, when her 16-year-old daughter started speaking out on social media about how she did not approve of her mom's time in the White House. So I think this puts a lot of stress. Being in the White House puts a lot of stress on anyone, and I think she is legitimately stepping back to pay more attention to her family. And she says that's what her top priority is. So I think you have to understand it is not easy to be in the spotlight for that long, especially with grueling White House hours.